Hi, it's me, your boyfriend slash girlfriend slash day friend's favorite content creator. And we're going to do something a little bit different today because instead of me, reacting to something or just complaining about something, which don't worry, we still be doing that here, like and subscribe, we're going to be talking about a game. We're talking about this game. You saw the title, but the game is called Horses. And the reason why we're talking about this game is because there was a surprising amount of controversy surrounding this game to the point where I was like, damn, maybe I should see for myself and see if it's actually as bad as people were saying it is. There were some accusations being made about the game, talking about like having material that was inappropriate, that there was children involved and all these things, which sounded kind of crazy to me. Because when I saw the trailer, there was nothing to indicate that it was anything like that. But, I like to be, diligent. So I got the game, wasn't that much, and I played it. And let's just say things were definitely overblown. So with that out of the way, please enjoy this video. Again, like, comment, share, subscribe, all those things. And I will see you next video. Take it away, the me who did the recordings, which is the same me. Horses starts off with your character, Anselmo, standing in front of a gate on a dirt path that eventually leads to a farmhouse. While on the path, the game draws attention to a dart in the middle of the road. And if you inspect that dart, you find out it's a tranquilizer dart, which, I mean, it's a farm, so like, that's not too weird to find it. So you pick it up, look at it, you put it back down, you keep on going, and eventually you'll see a crow. And that crow will caw if you go and interact with it. And then you'll see a man at the entrance of the farm. Now, at this point, immediately in the game, you'll probably get the sense that Horses has no problem making you feel uncomfortable. Just going off of this interaction. I mean, look how lifeless his face looks, right? Look at his eyes. It's like the muscles in his face are being puppeteered by some unknown force, making him shift into like uncomfortable imitations of what we pass as emotions, right? It's just like really unsettling. Anyways, you find out that you're working this farm for a fortnight, but there's no battle bus. And I hope that reference was nice and topical, depending on when you watch this. But no, really, a fortnight is 2 weeks, so 14 days. And you go inside and you drop your things off and you start to get a feel of what you'll be doing over the next fortnight. Again, 2 weeks. Mostly. I say that because in addition to gardening and feeding the dog and whatnot, you have to take care of the, titular horses. And this is where the game really gets weird. It doesn't take very long to see that the horses, in fact, aren't horses, but people with horse masks and collars on them. And that's it. That's the only thing on them. They're fully naked. The game quite literally shoves it in your face with it's transparent, like zoomed in image of a horse that is just showing its junk right there. And it covers a significant portion of your FOV. And now, to both your characters and the game's credit, Anselmo can display shock. The option to display shock and uncomfortableness and hesitation when offered to ride a horse is present, which would probably be mirroring the feelings that you as a player experiencing. Because I know when I played it, I was like, hey man, I don't want to do that shit at all. I don't actually want to get on top of them. And so then while you're riding the horse, you are treated with a mini game, which is an obstacle course. It's a race. It's pretty simple. You get on the horse, you start racing, you go over these fences and you're done. And the whole time I was like, it's honestly crazy how like fit these horses are. Because again, these are people. Like imagine you're an average sized person and someone of, let's say, also average size gets on your shoulders and you're not only walking with them with nothing, but you're also clearing these fences. Like this is not like a bigger part of the game, by the way. It's not like the fitness comes into play. I just thought it was interesting to mention. Like these guys should be crazy good. To the fact where I was playing and I'm just like, bro, take off the mask and put them in the league or something. Like, what are you doing, horses? You're sitting on a gold mine here, farmer. Sorry. Anyways, so we fast forward to the night, and you'll have to eat dinner before you can interact with the farmer. And I really hope you guys love intense close-ups with mouths and the sound of people eating, because you'll be seeing that quite a lot during the length of this, albeit short game. After a brief conversation, you'll find yourself in your room and hear the sound of the projector playing. It's the horses, okay? And they're watching horses. I guess that's normal. I mean, like they're people, and people watch movies. So like, you're a person, there's a chair, you can watch this movie. Everything's on fire. Well, I mean, that's not also too bad. You probably, no, that's bad. That is very bad, actually. Well, anyways, the day starts and you're shown what is effectively the meat of the game. Each day you'll start off with option to eat breakfast, followed by having to complete a task before it's nighttime. Now, the tasks in the games are relatively simple, but you have to follow the rules as laid down by the farmer. Anytime you get a piece of equipment, for example, you have to put it back exactly where you found it in order to finish off the day. And when I mean exactly where you found it, I mean exactly where you found it. Some of the things a little finicky, at least for my playthrough, where you have to be at certain positions to like put things away and interact with it. But it's a little bit annoying. But like other than that, and there was like the occasional time where the instructions were a little like vague, and some things you couldn't actually see because of the way that it was like rendered. But again, those are small annoyances. Well, that and having to backtrack, because again, you have to put it back. Like, I really have to stress this part. Even though it's not super annoying, you do have to put shit back. So like, there's no quick travel or anything. Granted, the map's not that huge, but if you, let's say, for example, take a watering can and you have to, water the garden, you have to go to the shed, get the watering can, go to the sink, put it full of water, go water the X amount of objects you have to water, then come all the way back to the farmhouse / shed, and then put it back in the spot you got from the shed. And then you can start the other task. So it's a little long, but again, it's mostly annoying, but that's really it. And I think the tasks are signed up to be kind of easy in order for you to be set up for the weird shit that happens towards the end. Like with the watering can, right? After you finish watering, you're going to walk back, and while you're putting it away, you're going to see a goddamn horse hanging from the tree. And then you have to report that to the farmer. Stuff like that. And then the farmer, when that moment happens, will go like, oh no, not again, and apologize for having to see it. But then he'll also make you get the wheelbarrow by the shed and wheel the dead horse to the graveyard, dig a hole, and then bury the horse. And like, to be fair, I've never worked on a farm. So maybe it's totally normal to keep the dead bodies of animals on the property. Who knows? But there was also something very weird about some of the names you see in this graveyard. But again, job's a job. And so you do it, and that's the end of day one. Now, I'm gonna preface this right here by saying this is probably the most normal of the days you're going to have in this game. Day two starts with the farmer giving you a list of horses that like to bone, and this is a no bone zone. Boning is forbidden, verboten, prohibido, and like really is really forbidden. Like the farmer makes it explicitly clear. If any horse gets it on, you have to tell him. And I'm sure it's for a totally reasonable and normal reason, and there won't be any extreme consequences for that behavior whatsoever. After you confirm that you'll tell him, you're tasked with putting a marker on the graves you dug, the previous day. And when you get there, there's a woman, clearly, kneeling in front of the grave, and she points and she wants you to collect these flowers. And because you're a good guy, you do it. You collect these flowers, and then that's it. That's the day. I told you, sometimes days are fine, other times days are not so fine. I would still say this day was less normal than the other day, because having a horse kneeling at a graveyard and then you just randomly collecting flowers to put on there with no one, mind you don't interact with that horse. So it's not like you have a relationship with them. You're just doing it. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that, yeah, you're going to see the horse's bone. The horses are absolutely going to be boning during your day, which again is why I said day 1 is the most normal day you're going to have. Day 3 starts, and you don't have to do much. You can feed the dog and the horses, and you can tell the farmer if there are any horses fornicating. Now, I chose not to tell him because, look at him. And then you have dinner. And then during that dinner, you are given 2 letters to read from your parents that I think paints a pretty solid picture of the kind of upbringing that Anselmo had. His mom was very soft and forgiving, very kind and generous to him, where his dad is very much not so. It's something that we find we have in common with the farmer, as he tries to relate to Anselmo by telling him about a kind of messed up story, as one does. But while he's trying to relate to Anselmo, he starts drinking some wine and talks about how he had a dog that would rub himself on people's legs and how he found it to be funny, but his dad very much didn't think it was funny. And in fact, that it was so not funny, he had the dog castrated the same day. So, just a normal conversation to have with someone over dinner. On day 4, you hear a boulder breaking. And if you go outside towards the stables, you'll hear the dog. Oh, by the way, no, I don't know if I told you guys this, but the dog's not a real dog. Also, it's a guy. There are no real animals in this game besides, I think, the crow. Yeah, the crow was just an animal. So yeah, there's just a crow, and everyone else is a person in dog or horse mask. But yes, you see the dog barking at a few of the horses remaining because some of the other horses have escaped, and you have to round them up. It's a pretty easy task, though. Some of them are pretty much wide open areas. You can spot them. And then you go to the front, and there's the horse you saw at the graveside. And she's looking across the gate where you entered to start the game, and there's another horse. And she just points to him and says, "Freedom." Weird. The next day, the farmer starts off by hitting that very same female horse, saying it wasn't the first time she was able to escape, and orders us to disinfect her wounds since she'll need to be in good shape for tomorrow. That night, the farmer gives us the name of the horse we saw on the other side, Fiero. Apparently, he escaped a long time ago and is just out there sometimes can be seen in the forest, sabotaging what the farmer does. Don't know why the farmer is out in the forest. Kind of weird that he's there, but we continue. On day 6, you get to wash the horses for some visitors. And honestly, I know I said the game gets weird earlier on, but this is the strangest part to me in this whole game, because this is where we find out that there are other people who know about this farm and are just okay with it. In fact, they are willing patrons. There's a woman with just like the creepiest aura, and she picks a horse to ride, and you have to like escort her to the horse. And then you do like how normal people in the normal world, when you ride a horse, there is a person with the rope or like a lead holding the horse so they can walk around. The person just gets to gently sit on it, right? But in this place, you know, the horses are people. And so she just gets on it, and she gives you this like super smug look as you are uncomfortably walking with the horse. And she's just like, I know what you're thinking, right? Because she's fully aware that these aren't real horses. But she didn't agree with how they were, living their lives. So she thinks that this is a just punishment. Beyond that, she tells you that her father helped supply the farms with horses and then wishes Anselmo a long and healthy life as a human. And judging by the grin she gives you, she definitely means she would absolutely be crushed if you ended up turning into a horse. This game is weird, you guys. And now we're going to enter the part where the weirdness takes the probably predictable, really, really, really tonal shift. So this is your warning right here. Like, this is when the game gets into the heavier stuff, like sexual assault. So if that's not your bag, you can either stop the video here, or I'll probably put like a timestamp where you can kind of jump back in, which still might be a little confusing, but this is just, again, a warning. Because it's in the game. So this is it. You can back out. You can like, comment, subscribe, and say, I stopped here, I backed out. All right. Okay, we're going. We're going to skip to the night of day 7, since all that really happens is that you find a letter with the words "me like you" on it, which you can probably figure out who wrote that. And if you can't, it's the horse, the horse that's been getting the most attention, the one that you disinfected. This night is special though, because unlike the other nights, which I might have not mentioned before, you cannot go into the farmer's room. In fact, that was one of the rules he had. But tonight, you can go into his room because the farmer wants to celebrate the new work week, and by doing so, drink some wine with you. But the farmer's a lightweight, can't really handle the drinking. So once he's had like a couple of glasses, he basically blacks out, goes to his room, and leaves the door wide open. So, like the good guests we are, we enter the room, and oh, that's it. I mean, like it's pretty messy, and maybe be embarrassing if someone saw your mess, but I don't know why you have this locked up. It's not like there's some crazy shit happening there. I mean, like, look, okay, look. There's a drawer here, and we can interact with it. So let's just interact with it. There's probably nothing in there. Okay, so if my eyes are working, that is a makeshift dummy with his mouth covered and held in a crucified position with the Bible in one hand, and I believe that is a riding crop in the other. And that's a chastity belt around the waist. Fair enough. You know what, you guys? I do think, though, the farmer might be repressing something. But since we're here, why don't we just search the rest of the room? Okay, there's a portrait of a married couple with horses on their heads, and some drawings that I'm sure are totally Hey, Bianca, Wasn't that the name of one of the graves? And isn't Primo the name of one of his current horses? Oh, damn. He did the same thing to his parents? You guys, is the farmer repressing something? We find ourselves outside and see the farmer wearing a chastity belt as the dog looks like it's... Oh, okay. Yeah, we can just skip this. We know what's happening here. There's no real confusion here. So we're just gonna just... Next day, a doctor shows up and is concerned for the well-being of the horse from last night and asks you to take it to the shed and ask for privacy where he can perform a checkup. I'll let you guess what kind of checkup he'll be doing while we go to the farmers and give him the medicine that the doctor just so happened to give us. When we return, we have to knock a few times and, oh wow, the horse suddenly died out of nowhere. What a surprise. And the doctor seems to be completely at a loss as to what could have happened. Then the day ends immediately after that, by the way, and we start off having to meet the farmer in the shed where he wants your help in castrating a horse. And man, does the game not allow you to not do this. You're going to castrate this horse so hard, it's going to be right in your face. And then after the fact, you're going to sew up the horse. And I mean you, the player. And then after that, you're going to have to clean up the blood. And so at this point, the game's been kind of hitting you nonstop, right? I mean, you're going from the farmer's room to the late night assault that happens to the early morning castration. And I think the game recognizes that in its weird sort of way because it tries to offer Anselmo a small reprieve in the form of the horse, which by the way, her name is Linda, so I'll just refer her to Linda from now on, offering you some relief with her mouth. Now, here's the thing. We obviously know how the female horses have been treated in this game, right? So even with Linda doing this seemingly of her own free will, it's still a very uncomfortable experience because again, that's how these female horses have been treated. They're nothing but objects of not even desire, really, of just sexual gratification. And so while this scene was happening, I couldn't help but feel a little bit just like, am I the bad guy here, you know? But what's done is done. You have that uncomfortable experience, and then bam, we're on to day 10. And on this day, once again, Linda is by the graveyard. But this time she tells you to remove a part of the wall. And once you do so, you'll see that Fierro is on the other side of the wall. And guess what, you guys? You'll never guess what he wants. He wants you to help free the other horses. And now, I have no objection to that. These people probably definitely shouldn't be treated like this. So you agree to help. And he says he needs you to find something to cut a hole in the fence alongside the wall. So you go to this wool shed, you get something sharp, you cut a hole in the wall, and then he gives you sleeping pills to, well, actually, they say something to make the dog go to sleep. And you take it. And that's it. Simple enough. Put in the dog's food, and then that's it. Wait for night to show up. And so when night does come, you know, all the horses can escape. Game's over. Good job, you. And obviously I'm lying to you because this video is still going on. So obviously, no, the horses didn't escape. In fact, the horses did not escape so hard that the next day when you wake up, you see Fierro is literally nailed to a post by his hands and is hanging a few feet off the ground. And Linda is tied up in the shed next to the dead dog's body. So yeah, I guess it helped put him to sleep in the most permanent way possible. We killed the dog, which I guess it means we killed a man. Great summer job so far. The farmer doesn't take this well and ends up sawing Fido's body and then has you put the remains in a nearby dumpster And the entire time while you have the remains in your hand, there's just a superimposed video of a fly just making the buzzing sounds. To really, get you in the mindset that you are carrying a immediately decaying body. So that's also kind of weird too, but you know what? This is a game about people, horses. What can you do? And after you do that, the day ends. And so with 2 more days left, we are introduced to a new person named Father Antonio. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that again. A longtime acquaintance of the farmer. And he's there to put Linda back on the path of light. Oh, sorry, Snowflake. That's what they call her. They took away her real name and called her Snowflake. So Snowflake on the path of light. You follow the 3 to the cabin. This is also early in the game. We talk about how there's rules. One of the rules being can't go into his room. And the second one being you can't go into the cabin unless you're invited. So while you're walking to the cabin, the farmer and the father talk, and the father mentions how he has a cask of wine for him. And Linda tells Anselmo that they want to take her to that room again. And then she hopes that we don't abandon her there. Dark. We aren't privy as to what happens, and we are immediately thrown to the night of the 13th day. The farmer is once again drunk, which means he's going to participate in another awful late night activity. And sure enough, we find him in a church with the father setting fire to Linda's body while the rest of the horses watch on. Though this can't be real, right? Because Fido's dead and his body was thawed. We threw his remains in a trash can. And in fact, as Linda's body is burning, Linda turns to address us, and we are quickly woken up with the face of the farmer. So yeah, pretty sure that didn't actually happen. The farmer then takes us to the cabin where we see 2 people, like actual people without horse masks on, strapped to a table. The farmer caught them desecrating his woods with impure acts and wants to mask them, collar them, and inject them with a serum to make them truly his. For some reason, Anselmo is still following the farmer's orders, even after everything he's witnessed. He is still fully listening to this guy, following his instructions, making a cocktail of these weird concoction in order to create a serum to inject these people. Again, don't know what's going on with my boy. I guess the job market is tough and he has to keep doing this because I see no other reason why he would continue. After he gets these horses under the control of the farmer, they have to put them through their paces, which just means we are doing another weird mini game where we're riding on top of these people and just kind of doing a mini obstacle course. And that's it. After that, you take them to the horses and then you get to do the fun part. And by fun, I mean knot and brand them. And yes, this is something you are actively doing. You're actively branding these people who were captured by the farmer. And so while, I'm sitting there thinking, maybe I'm the baddie, I'm interrupted by Fiero, who tells us that we can still rescue Linda. She's in a secret place underneath the cabin. And so we waste no time going to the cabin and trying to rescue her. And once we get there, we realize that, of course it won't be that simple, right? Because once we get inside there, we just see Linda standing there. That's it. So naturally, this was not real. This was, of course, not real. And when we actually go back to the real cabin and we go underground, we find out that we need a door code to open the door. What a surprise. We can't just have things be simple now, can we? So everyone, congratulations. Claps all around. Claps all around. You've made it to day 14, the last day, and our final chance to save Linda. We feed the horses and we take the wine to the house, but we have no way of opening the door, and we still don't have the code. But you know who does have the code? You know who does have the code. It's the farmer. I don't know if you guys didn't know, but the farmer, in fact, has the code. But obviously, he's not going to give it to us. So we got to be a little bit sneaky. And if you've been picking up on one of his weaknesses, you realize that you just got to get the farmer drunk again. So that's what we do. You get the farmer drunk again. And, you know, after he walks out of his room, there is a key on the ground that we can pick up. So we pick that up. We unlock the VHS tapes that's just been in his room this entire time. Pop that bad boy in. And then we get to watch a video that makes it pretty clear as to how the farmer became the person that he is today. You know, he had a traumatic upbringing with an overly religious father instilling rigid obedience into him while making any and all sexual desires wrong, calling them impure, right? So kind of explains his whole worldview now, doesn't it? So now this is probably gonna be a little bit different from other people because I wasn't really paying attention when I did this. So I went back to the room and I was looking at the image of the doll, the gag doll, you know, and I noticed that there were numbers corresponding to certain areas. So then, me being me, I kind of forgot what those numbers were. But you're supposed to look at that, match it up with the figure, and realize that the code for the hidden room is 8692. And so once we go back to that room, we punch in that code, we are able to descend further down a set of stairs and to find another door. But this door opens, thank God. But the second it opens, we are immediately blasted with the sound of the farmer's voice coming from a massive projector in a sort of like Clockwork Orange brainwashing scene. And it's so loud that words flash across your screen in order to like really communicate the sheer volume of what's been happening to Linda. So first we try to free her, but we have to be able to untie her. So you look around the room and there are some sharp objects you can use to cut her free, but the video is still on. And because the video is still on, she won't move. So naturally we have to stop the feed, which isn't too hard, honestly. You just go up these steps and then you click the, you cut the video in half, video stops playing, she's free. But you're not. Because when you do that, you find the farmer's at the door and he's not too happy that you know, first off, ruined his film. And secondly, you know, freed Linda and stopped her being brainwashed. So he knocks you out. And when you wake up, you find yourself on the table of that very cabin in which you saw those two other people on the table. So then you're probably going to figure out what's happening to you right now, right? Linda's in the corner, still kind of in a daze, and the farmer starts to lament about our betrayal while he starts prepping the concoction to turn us into one of his pets. While he's focused on us, though, Linda wakes up and she hits him in the back of the head, placing him on the table. And together, she and Anselmo inject the farmer with the serum. And no, it's not lost on me that the way they positioned their hands on the syringe was very intentional. Okay, I picked up on that. I picked up on that subtlety. But at this point, the game's over. I mean, there's an epilogue where you give Fiyero a Viking funeral, but that's the game. You get to lead the horses to freedom, and then the credits roll. Congratulations, we've just completed horses. All right, so horses. Where to start? Well, let's start with the controversy, right? I don't think this game needed any sort of controversy, especially to the level that it received. I mean, you saw the title. This game was banned on both Steam and Epic. Steam, the biggest digital storefront, and then the Epic Game Store. But still, two game stores who said that they could play the game on there, you could buy the game on there, suddenly revoked that right. And usually when that's happened, it's because there's some sort of excessive or obscene material in there that's just like not good. But that's not the case with horses. Again, I played the game. There's nothing in there that I think would meet the level of getting it revoked. I mean, yeah, there's nudity in this game, but you can buy adult games on Steam, for crying out loud. And the nudity here isn't done in a way that's supposed to be enticing, right? It's done in a more allegorical sense. But because I guess the nudity and the way we are in the society, we've been shifting towards more puritanical beliefs, that was enough. The game itself even censors. Like this video, I didn't do like a lot of editing here to get rid of the scenes here. Like the game does the majority of it. It blurs everything out. You don't actually get to see the genitalia or anything being inserted or anything like that. And yet there are games on Steam that are way more aggressively violent, sexually violent, and they're allowed to be sold. I think though the controversy did in some ways help this game get attention because, you know, attention's attention, but I still feel like it wasn't fair to the developers to have such a huge platform tell them, actually, no, we're not going to let you release your game on here. And as far as the game itself goes, I mean, the premise is pretty interesting, right? I mean, having people as horses is, I would say, pretty unique, unless, you know, I'm talking out of my ass and there's so many games where you have a cattle of people who you treat as horses. And I did like the fact that there were things that were sort of just implied and left to imagination. Like, why is the farmer, for example, going into the woods and finding people who are engaging in impure acts and then turning them into horses? Why is he doing that? Why are there people who are paying him to do that? Right? Like, how is this whole thing being maintained? So I think that was pretty interesting too. Obviously, there was the very overt religious tones in this game, right? You had a character, Father Antonio, who was literally complicit with all of the things happening there under the guise of this to put you on the path of light. I thought that was pretty interesting too. But overall, this game isn't something that I would put on the level of like mouth washing, right? I would say that though, that if you are interested in having a short yet interesting experience, you could check this game out. I mean, I did just kind of ruin it by explaining everything, but still, sometimes experiencing for yourself is more important than watching someone yapping at you for, who knows, maybe far too many minutes, and you might want to play it for yourself. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on this game. It's not something that I'm personally going to be talking about for the whole year like I did mouthwashing, which I did a whole video on if you guys want to check that out. But I strongly agree with the people who think that this game should have not have been pulled from Steam. I think this game should be put back on Steam, and I think it should be Epic Store. This is not that crazy of a game, you guys. I think it's actually more crazy that it even got this level of essentially censorship when, again, there are worse games on those platforms than horses.